Hey,
Hello, good evening, and welcome to
the
Truth
truth
Behind
behind
the
the
Truth.
truth.
Tuesday night excitement on your airways if you tune in this
Right, that's
in.
right. How you
be it
doing,
today,
Charles?
be it today or later on. Charles, how you doing, sir?
I'm breathing.
Yeah. How's everything? Have you guys got? Yeah, I still got the heat going on in Georgia. Is it raining a lot?
Both.
Oh, both, huh?
We're
Yeah.
supposed to get another heat storm,
Yeah.
whatever. Not a storm, but a heat wave coming back towards the end of this week, I suppose.
Yeah.
So,
Well, it won't be too bad, like 95, 90, except for like toward Palm Springs and stuff. That's our double digit category.
yeah, well,
Okay. Because downtown area, I mean, you get hot out this area, but because, it always like 90s, like Woodland, it's Woodland Hills, Burbank, because we can sit in the valley. We get all the, all the,
well, either way, it's messing with our water flow, our water supply. Y'all notice? Have y'all been hearing about our water supply going down, down, down? I was at the
Yeah.
Colorado Springs talking about the water level has gone down, and some other place in Arizona where the water level has gone down.
Yeah. It's an issue. The weather's just been crazy, especially with the flooding up north in Chicago, Indiana. It's they flooding up there. They had a couple of tornadoes, so it's rough all over the country. Oops. All right.
Yeah, it's been really a hot mess when it comes to that. Here lately, like we were talking about today. The planet's just doing what it's doing. What can you call it? I'm trying to say it's responding to what we're putting out there.
Oh, respond to the energy.
Yeah.
Charles, are we breaking up a little bit on your end just to make sure? Because I know the Wi-Fi is acting crazy.
No,
sometimes. Are we
not that
good?
I've noticed. Yeah, you good.
Okay, cool. As long as you can hear us and we can hear you, because the Wi-Fi here can be kind of stupid. But yeah, I mean, I think the weather is responding to the human energy that we're putting in the atmosphere because there's a whole lot of stuff that's going on. A mess. Chat G and what Gemini is acting up. But yeah, I think that's what's going on. It's our energy nowadays. It's so negative. And that's the problem. I think that's why we're getting all this crazy weather. It's just, it's responding to what we got going on.
Yeah. I mean, you figure that. Well, there's a huge hypothesis about that whole kind of scenario, and I don't think people really understand is that we are all made up of energy.
Oh yeah. When we die, we go back into the
to the atmosphere, to energy, or whatever, and of course the religious perspective on that is that you go back, you go into the ground, you stay there forever.
What do they know?
Well, they've been there.
What do they know? I always ask them, like, how do you know?
They've been there.
Because oh my God, there's a platform. I forget what it's called, but the girl of the New Age was. Did y'all see? I don't think y'all paid any attention to it, but that was a 20 panel of Christian women and one New Age religious woman, and they were having a debate about faith and about God and about the fact that she believes not in the commercial religion, but she's a spiritualist.
Right.
She's part of the occult.
Okay. The occult?
Yeah, the occult, because she believes in the power of stones, the power of manifestation, the power.
I think when they say that, they try to put that as meaning. See, the terminology of the occult has always been that entity that we don't bring up, as a whole, because I don't,
But she was good at what she was.
Yeah, no, go ahead. I'll finish my point.
But she was good. Sorry. I mean, the whole entire thing exposed a lot of people's situations when it come down to what they believe in the traditional sense of Christianity. It made some of them made some even still wanted to debate her, but she stood her ground.
Right.
And she was crystal clear of how do you know I'm going to hell? When have you been to hell?
Yeah.
How do you know even if it exists? How do we all know if it exists? Because it's coming from a narrative and a book where it has been requoted, rewritten plenty of times by numerous of writers, by numerous of governments.
Well,
There you go.
my thing about this whole spirit religious concept is it has gotten to the point that it is a concept. Now, I'm not saying that there are not opportunities to explore different levels of truths that are out there, but exploring the levels of truths does not make it a defining point for humanity.
All right.
It becomes a point where that is your individual journey, and if you feel like that's getting you closer to your relationship with our Creator, okay.
All right.
But to take that and to put that hypothesis on somebody else's life and say that this is an absolute coming from him, or the Bible, says, to say that it represents that, because half of you people that believe this stuff don't even study anyway. You ain't never been to, just because you read the Bible don't mean you understand the Bible. There's a lot of people read it. People read it for their particular enjoyment. And if you don't understand the context of what's being said in the course of reading, what you reading it for?
Well, let me quote Erykah Badu.
Okay.
The intellects don't fear God. Most intellects do not fear in God, but the fearers are just the same.
Yeah.
The fearers are just the same, meaning that they do not believe also in what they believe in too.
Right. I mean, exactly. I mean,
I know where that came from, right? You know what song that came from? On and On.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Most intellects do not believe in God, but the fearers are just the same. That quote always stays with me when people bring up certain things. I'm like, y'all, okay, whatever. Go and do what you think you would know, that God would know.
Yeah, well, yeah, but that's you said a point there, right there at that point, because I think what these for the most part, most Christian humanity thinks they know better than God.
Yeah,
they do. They're actually telling God what he all in the Bible gets me. He wrote them.
You always study.
He wrote the Bible. You know what I'm saying? God wrote the Bible himself. He came to Charlton Heston's Ten Commandments story, where the finger of God wrote, the Ten Commandments out of the wall, on the stone and what have you. So
from the burning bush.
So it becomes an absolute. It does it.
Yeah, it's from the burning bush.
So there's no right. There's no scrutinizing what was written. Because you're out of line for scrutinizing, you're out of line for questioning what allegedly was written. And because you don't understand the art of reading, poetic reading. First of all, they would if they read the Genesis and all the Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus in the sense of the poetic position that it was written, then they'd have a better understanding who they are as a person. But they try to read it as an absolute, and you can't read a poem as absolute. Okay, poems are not, and even now, you're right. You can't read poems as an absolute because they have hypotheses that bring the story together. Okay, well, intelligent people know that. We didn't know a little bit something know that. Just like you can't take everything that Jesus said and make it a rule of thumb either. Okay, because Jesus spoke in what? Parables. Okay, parables are similar stories that will help you identify with who you are. Okay, well, I didn't mean to get into a Bible study. I'm just saying, but what'd you say?
The Aesop fables.
What'd you say, Charles?
Aesop fables.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So and unfortunately, for the good that Christianity could have done for humanity in terms of just bringing itself back to itself in a wandering decision, of things, and and we have to admit that the people that inhibited the planet during the time that the releasing of Christianity, it was very chaotic. It was a very chaotic time. You had so much going on in the and it's kind of like it was today, pretty much. That is today. Not quite as vicious, but we're not quite as vicious only because we got laws in place that stop that from happening. But you've got all of these third world rulers that were in trying to take over the planet. And well, here comes history lesson. If we study human behavior, we study world history, we understand how things integrate together. But and you know about this, but the worst ruler that there ever was to this particular day, even outside of the Roman government, which that's another story, but was Genghis Khan. And he basically almost destroyed half of the world by the bubonic plague. And what he basically did is went throughout to Europe and different places in Asia, and these people that got infected with this plague. If you think about the COVID-19 virus, this plague was worse than that. Okay, and what would happen is that people were dying instantly, and they didn't have any place for their bodies and stuff. But the disease kept festering in their bodies. So if you walk by and touch the dead body or whatever the case may be, if you breathe anything around that body, you would catch the virus that was there. So what he did in war, which made him rise up to be one of the one of the worst superpowered individuals at that time, was he would collect these bodies, and he would go throughout the countryside, throwing those bodies over to different cities, so he could overtake the city because the people were dying from the plague. And it kept going on and going on to the point that story would have it that it moved. The virus kept moving so close that the only thing that separated from hitting the Americas was the Atlantic Ocean. The waters is what kept it separated from traveling, because they could not get it over to the Americans. Otherwise, it would have got here, and at that point, probably Native Americans, all that were in the Americas at that time. So
that has always been our safeguard in any war globally is the ocean. The ocean. So to be honest with you, we would in most conflicts, we have been grateful for the Atlantic Ocean and the Pacific Ocean. I mean, Charles can probably agree to that. When it boils down to anything, it's kind of hard to get to us, but most enemies know through sneak attacks they have gotten to us. But now in this new age of war, you have now technology, and you have other factors that can mess with the economy, which is now what we're learning through the Iran situation right now.
Right.
Iran has figured us out, and they probably has figured us out through their foe, China.
Right.
And they have probably, and that's where, people say, well, they can never get to us. Yes, they can. They know how to get to us through our allies. And that right there is how it, you're seeing the rise in gas prices, in groceries. See, they're not even want to tell us this through the mainstream media. Right. But to be honest with you, we are feeling the wrath of this war.
Right.
And it's no telling how this is all gonna weigh itself in the fall or around in the holiday season. But I keep forewarning people, you have to pay attention to the news, because we even talked about this last night. We're gonna probably talk about this later on the show about layoffs.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the situations that are going on is playing with people's jobs. And that in itself is another war tactic that, I hate to say it, Iran and some other people know how to get through our situation. But let's keep this ball game, and we ain't there yet.
Right. Let me say this, and we're going to move on. And Charles can kind of finish up the chime out of this. One of the things that protects us, typically, because, like you said earlier, because of the waters, and the only time that America on record that was attacking by a foreign nation was Pearl Harbor with Japan, but it was all aerial. Mm-hmm. Okay, it was not to the point that ships or submarines have ever come to America to bomb America, whatever. So the waters does protect America to that extent. Mm-hmm. And then by the time that somebody would, I'm not saying they never tried, but by the time they would get to that particular point, that we would destroy them, in the ocean or whatever. But Charles, you can contest that, being our naval example.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, I never claimed to be a commander of war, but even though I've been quite involved in a little bit, those guys are over there now in the Indian Ocean, or rather in the Bay of Hermes. They've just spent over 200 days on ship without no land. The previous record was my ship, the USS Nimitz. We were out to 147 days. We broke the 100-day mark, which is the longest. It was the longest at the sea deployment in peacetime. Well, they're not really in peacetime; they're in wartime now. But those guys are having a hard time mentally, emotionally. To be out there like that on that water for those many days is like being in jail. And especially people who have nowhere else to go. where you can't jump off. You can't just walk down the street. You're out at sea. And
Right.
then the hot water cut off. It broke. So, and they couldn't get no supplies in because they're on station. You can't just bring supplies in. You got to leave the place, find somewhere safe to resupply. But you can't do that either.
Right.
So they have to wait till they turn what they call a transition between battle groups. Them guys, when I was on the ship, they had to take away our personal knives because guys were getting into fights with the knives. And we would go up on deck. All it took was 10 minutes out there in the Indian Ocean, and we had gloves on. Anything that wasn't covered was tanned. Like he'd been out there for hours, and it didn't even take but 20 minutes. And so we dressed all up. And those guys, I was also part of the hostage rescue in Iran. So we've been doing a lot with Iran. You know, when they tried to go over there, when they overtook the Shah, and they had those prisoners or hostages at the university. Well, we seen some helicopters in there, and they crashed and killed quite a few guys. I forgot how many it was, but it's been with Iran has just been one great big bundle of chaos. You know, and that's why when I hear people say Iran is trying to hurt us, I wouldn't blame them because of the stuff we've done to them. We put the Shah up in there, and he ran them broke. His wife had 200, 300 pairs of shoes, and they traveled and they had diamonds, and the people were starving. They weren't getting what they needed.
Right.
And
you know, and it's amazing that you're really speaking on that for two reasons that we're at the point of well, I won't say pushing, but giving a straight. I told you this before, giving a straight pathway for my grandson to get in, you know, becoming, get in the Navy, you know, as a whole. We'll talk about that off camera a little bit more. But I'm glad to hear him. You mentioned about the time that you had to remain at sea as the same thing that these gentlemen are experiencing right now. The conditions, that. So here it is firsthand as that information being available and knowing y'all guys getting repentant. You never know by listening to the truth behind truth what comes up in conversation. Here's a firsthand experience, about something where your president gets on national television and said, well, they ain't been out there long enough.
Yeah, he sure did.
Ship.
He sure did say that.
Go ahead, Charles.
I said he sure did say that.
Yeah.
He has no respect, no empathy, no compassion, none of that.
Well, that makes up a business post. That's his CEO, right? I'm gonna keep saying that because this is what people wanted in this president. He's a businessman. And this
he ain't a businessman. That's a lie.
that was the fallacy that was being spread throughout the campaign. He can make deals. He knows what he's doing. He is the art of the deal. That's what people don't fail to understand, that the nuances of keeping a business is being cutthroat. Right. And the saddest thing about the situation where our Navy and our Army are in these types of conditions is the fact that you have people who is running this war, whatever you want to call it. They ain't never been out doing anything but back at home in peacetime. Right. Heads up, all of them. They claim to be of the military, but I don't think these fools have ever been in the art of war. Right. And that in itself lets me know that them being out there and having to do this type of situation lets me know that there are people who are in control. Don't give not a rat's tail about the conditions. They just want what they want. At the end of the day, they want Iran. They want the Strait of Hormuz without not even thinking about the consequences of the situation. They just want it.
But look at it like this: the way the power structure works now is everybody has a agenda, and those agendas are incorporated not all the time in war. China and Japan working us economically. They really don't want to come over and fight us. So what they do is they work on us economically. We get all those loans from them. We was doing all that trade with them. And it was like, when we start talking tariffs, they cut the trade off. And who hurt? We hurt. They didn't hurt. We the ones that hurt. And it was like, we could easily say, give us our money. Any day they could come out and say, give us all our money then. We done with you. Man, that would jack this country up because we print money hand over fist. That's why it's such a problem with Trump now. They spend it like it don't come. Them bombs they shoot, they cost $4 and $5 million a pop. and you're just bombarding them out there like they
Right.
popcorn. Like that's crazy. And then look at Iran.
Where they
If
getting that
Iran
money
really
from?
wanted to have if they really wanted to have a nuclear weapon, don't you think with all the stuff we done to them, they would have bombed us by now? Everything we've done to them.
Absolutely.
Don't you think if they really had it, they would have thrown it in like the hell with it then? You killing us, just bomb them.
Absolutely.
What is saving it for if they got it?
That's why I told them we all need to start checking our pay stubs, because this war is going to rob us all the way blind. And the saddest thing about it is people are not paying attention. They're not waking up to the situation, and mainstream media is not reporting the way it should be reporting, because I think they're scared from the FCC to say anything. But I just found out that Disney is suing FCC right now. Told Jed, they're in the process of suing the FCC because of the fact that they are trying their best to censor these corporations from telling us what we need to know. And it's becoming to be a little ridiculous, but this is what the minority of this country voted for. Not the majority, but the minority. Right. The majority set out the last campaign. I'm just going to call it for what it is. The majority allowed the minority to control this country. Right. And that's why we're in the situation we're in, because when you allow the minority, the ones who do not think, do not care, who are not considerate of other people's rights and freedoms to control the narrative, then this is what you get. Right. You get evangelical commercials. You get censorship. You get a president who don't give a damn about our Navy, about our military. Right. And this is what we're going to have to put up with until there's a new wave, hopefully, that comes through in November. Right. Hopefully. Right. Because I still don't put all my trust into the American people. I really don't. I don't think some of us have really awoken to what is going on. No. And I have to sometimes remind myself, along with as much as I talk about the foundation of this country is a very I would say the fabric of democracy is a very, very, I would say, fragile thing you should never play with. Right. Because when the people stop speaking, that's when everything is turned upside down. That's when you have a totalitarian or an authoritarian type of situation come through, because the people have given up all liberties and rights to people who do not care. Right. Politicians and presidents, whoever you want to call them. This is what happens when the people give up their power. Right. So it is what it is. But let's talk about this Stephen A. Smith situation. And I want to talk about this. This is so important. This needs to be brought up.
Before we go on, I just uploaded this too, so we can see it on the show.
Yeah.
This is just a graft of a how the voting situation is. And I like to kind of share that.
Please bring that up. Let's see what they talk about.
And what happened in terms of why we are in the position that we're in. Here it is. I'll put up real quick. It's coming. So this was the graft of what their can you see it?
I can sort of see it, but I see where it says 75K voted for Harris and 77K voted for Trump, and 89, which is the majority, did not vote at all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's like that scenario with one crazy person on the train harassing a few people while the majority just sits there and watches. That's what this looks like.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree.
It's this is the scenario of that type of situation. Everybody on the train sitting there watching while a few people are trying to stop the crazy one who's harassing this one person. That's how this all looks. And it is a shame. Right. But hopefully, by the time the holidays hit, our economy won't fall into the ocean. But let's just, hope and pray. Right. But if it does, hey, this is what it boiled down to.
This is so true.
This is what it is. But let's get into the Stephen A. Smith situation, because I'm off the voting thing. Let's talk about the thumbs down from the Black Journalists Association. Was it warranted?
Of course.
I think it was.
Of course, good.
I think it was warranted.
Mm-hmm.
I think, to be honest with you, as a Black anything, we need to start pointing people out, criticizing them thoroughly, and letting the Black community know that these people are not for us. I think it needs to be a platform for that. I'm
Well,
grateful that
I
they did that.
actually was. Um, this wasn't the first time the NABJ did this. They've been doing this since '95.
Oh wow.
Yes, there's been over I think it's 400 people that's been on there on the list. They listed one time when Jesse Jackson done some stuff, and they kind of broadcasted out there. It broke what they call their standards of journalism. They've done when they did the CBS reporter that passed away, the black guy, man, I can't remember his name, but they did him a real bad do, and they talked about his death. Didn't give him none of the respect he deserved. So when they do things like that, and as he said, it's been quite a few companies and entities that have been chosen as the thumbs down. And Stephen A. and they, like I said, there are people who were chosen a thumbs down have come back and still participated and sponsored the NABJ. So the National Association of Black Journalists. So, when you look at that, and like Stephen A. said, I give him that much props. When he did his rebuttal, he said, I want to be better. And I'm going to be better. But I think this was bullshit.
But you don't go run to Hannity and to Chris Cuomo with that statement.
Yeah,
I think that's my thing.
Yeah, they've done some quite a few other folks. So it's like I said, this is not the first time. It's just that Stephen A. has been such a pillar or a beacon here lately that, hey, and he puts his foot in his mouth. He got foot and mouth syndrome. He can't help but put his foot in there. So
you about to call him a beacon of nonsense, basically.
Yeah, so he's gonna do what he does. Yeah, and I can say he's taking accountability, but I understand how he's upset. But Stephen A. don't do the. He keeps diving into stuff he has no understanding of, especially the politics. He let Byron Donalds come on there and talk all this crazy off the wall crap. That wasn't even true. And then I'm going, he lying like that. And Stephen A., even though he did try to press him a little bit, but about how much Trump spent, because he said every president spends. But even though Clinton came out with a damn surplus, they all spend. But the problem is Trump is spending like a drunken sailor. Like I said, the missiles cost $4 and $5 million a pop. He's done about the 90 and 100 of them, and talking about we almost out of them. Like what the
hell? My whole question, also then we got to move on. This is kind of like a general question. If you guys have an answer for it, send an email, put it in the comments, whatever the case may be with that. Where are we getting this money from? I mean, it's like, on a day-to-day basis, we're talking about dropping about multi-millions or billions to do this. We still have a half-done, torn-up White House that private donors, quote unquote, are going to give the other $400 million to put it. I'm just saying, using that as where are these freaking people getting $400 million together to do this? Where is this money coming from? Why do we have people starving? Why cannot we have universal health care? I know because they don't want to know, kind of giving answer my own question. But where is this money coming from? Where every time we turn around, money is available to do what Washington per se wants to do, but we can't have universal health care. We can't take care of our senior citizens. We can't put them in quality senior citizen developments. We can't take care of our children. We can't have daycare for our kids.
You got people crying online talking about my 12th graders can't even read, can't even write, can't even do anything. And in the back of my mind, I'm saying to myself, why down there do you keep voting for people who do not put in for public education? And then you should, like you say, you should be. I feel like at the end of the day, those questions that you are asking, you should be probably asking the ones who vote. But it's the politicians who allow this stuff, who want this stuff. Right. Who was it that just died not too long ago? What's his name? McCain's friend. Lindsey Graham. That's who you should be asking in spirit.
Well, I'm going to break both your hearts right now. Don't cry when I tell you this. I'm just going to have to tell you this, and I know it's going to hurt.
Don't hurt us.
Let me prepare.
There's no Santa Claus. So just get that through your head. No Santa Claus.
Well,
nobody's going to come down the chimney and spread cheer and toys and goodies to everybody and make us all feel good.
I wish that was the case, though, Charles. I wish somebody could make us feel good. But like you say, that utopia is a myth.
It is.
It's a myth.
It doesn't exist. There's no such thing. And the crazy part about it is, like you said about all the folks that set out, everybody's got this. If it ain't happening to me, it's all right.
That's right.
That mentality. I don't get that. Yeah. And then when COVID hit, they go, "Oh, what you mean me?" Times are so, how do I put this? Unstable that you can't really get a footing on what's happening next. You're always doing this because you never know where it's going to rock. So your whole day, you're just bouncing around. Things change on the fly so much with the 24-hour news cycle and, with the internet and social media, things are just. The problem is we're overwhelmed so much we get lazy. We just sit back.
That's probably, I think the best hypothesis about it. We have gotten lazy about it. I was sitting here thinking when you were moving around, what it kind of reminds me of, Charles, you probably remember when we were growing up, one of the things that we used to have those blow up clowns, and you punch it and it'll come back, come back up. You punch it again, it'll come back up. You punch it again. So that's what we are right now. Whatever direction the punch is coming in, as a whole, it go down and it come back up. It go down and it come back up. And the clown just keeps spinning around. And we got the clown right in the White House that gets punched each and every side, each and every way. He go down, he gets spun around, he come back up with another stupid idea. Literally, it just. I guess there's some days I can understand why some people just decide to keep their mouth closed. You know what I mean? I really do.
They keep their head down.
Yeah, well,
they do. They keep their head down.
I know they do, but and it's like, wow, and I get it. People get overwhelmed because there is so much being inundated with them. 24 news cycle. And they consistently go on. But anyway, we're gonna go on. So next a quick clip here. We're gonna it just to how we are viewed around the world at this point. We are not the celebrated superpower that y'all like to think that we are, those that voted on that graft, okay? We are not, okay? And we're losing credibility even faster by the day, at the end of the day. But this is what this gentleman has to say about it.
This is to the people of the United States of America. You realize that you are being seen by the rest of the world as no better than Russia, no better than China. You've threatened Canada. You've threatened Greenland. You have invaded Venezuela. You've starved Cuba. You've caused untold pain around the world. The Strait of Hormuz and the blocking of fuel supplies, oil supplies, has brought countries to their knees. And now your president is saying that he's going to make the Strait of Hormuz an American territory? Have you people lost touch with reality? Because whilsoever he sits in that chair, the American people are responsible. To go a little further, have a look at the way you are allowing him to treat you, your sailors, the disrespect he showed the bodies of your servicemen that came back, the way American citizens are being treated on the street, and you are allowing it. You are allowing it. The people of Iran rose up. Thousands of them were killed. And you sit back and you watch this man prey on the rest of the world. Disgraceful.
Yeah, I can take that. I can take that in stride because I have said this to plenty of people who bring this to my face. I said, y'all know what? We didn't have to go down this road. We could have went in the other direction. But you know what? Your agenda, the agendas that you wanted to succeed, you voted for this fool. And it's all based on hatred. And yes, we're not going to, when it's all said and done, the country, the American people, because it's not Trump alone, it's the American people that are going down for this. It's like when we went over into Germany and when we liberated Germany from Hitler.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't tell the Germans that, well, you know what, because of this one man and his policies of killing 6 million people, y'all are vindicated from this. No, we went and said to those German people that y'all were the criminals because you put this man into power. You are all responsible. You are all responsible for this. This is what the GIs told the German people once we liberated their country. So this is no different. We are all, regardless, Democrat, Republican, Independent, gay, straight, woman, man, child, we are all responsible for the woes of this world. And when it's all said and done, we're going to have to apologize, because if this man is out of office, what makes you think that these people are going to forgive and are going to forget?
Right.
Because after it's said and done, we're still going to have to make deals with the world.
Right.
And people are going to look at us like, y'all are not to be trusted anymore.
Absolutely.
Y'all cannot be trusted, because you had Obama. You had people who were reasonable leaders.
Go back to Bush. This wasn't this thing.
You had Bush,
Yeah.
but still you had
Yeah.
Clinton.
Yeah.
We had multiple presidents,
Yeah.
but still there was a diplomacy that was there.
Right.
And there was a reason for those.
We maintain
A diplomacy.
Right.
But this fool has ripped up that paper already. And people are looking at us like, y'all, I'm sorry. Y'all cannot be trusted anymore.
Mhm.
And it is what it is. Yeah, we're going to have to eat our
Eat crow, pretty much.
eat crow for this.
Right, Charles.
Go ahead, Charles.
Hey, I'm with you. I mean, we've everything we've got was a response. It wasn't. They didn't do it just because they wanted to do it to us or they don't like us. They done it because we did something to them.
Right.
We've been conniving and manipulating since since Jefferson. I mean, going overseas talking to the French and all of them. We've been manipulating people and undercutting and side dealing since the beginning of this country. As the man said before, this is not a religious country, because religious countries don't have slavery. Religious countries don't annihilate millions of Native Americans. A religious country doesn't connive and put people on that walker where they gave them the mumps, the blankets, the blanket of tears, with a trail of tears. Religious people don't do that.
Right.
So this wasn't a religious country. And then the sad part about that is every one of these, pretty much every president has, how do I put this? Has written the line to make sure that the underserved stay underserved.
Yes.
They all have made that effort in
Yes.
some way or another.
Yes.
And the crazy part about it is we still don't hold them accountable.
Nope. Absolutely don't. You know, I don't. And it's kind of going along there. We're going to go on to our next point. I don't see. And certainly I'll get mad at me. I really don't care at this point. But I don't really see that. We have this patriotism. For most this way. All of this kind of patriotism.
We talk too much.
Talk too much. Okay, and that's on both sides. Black, white, straight, gay, whatever. We talk to all this patriotism, but I do not see what I see in true patriotism that we see from our foreign brothers and sisters. Ain't no way in the world that everybody in the city of our man gonna pour in the streets and everywhere that we go, or just in conversion of Washington to turn into and to demand the person that is in charge to be taken out. We're not gonna do it. We can't even do it. Hell, we don't do it in our own neighborhood.
Because we are for a corporation country.
Well, I'm just talking about the individual. I'm talking about the individual.
But that's what we are. We are corporate. This country is a corporation. Nobody wants to lose their right or lose their position, lose their class, lose everything that they think is dear to them.
That they deserve.
And that is of their birthright.
Right.
And the saddest thing about it is freedom to most Americans is oppression. Tell the truth and shame the devil, black or white. Shame the devil. Most of the freedom that we think is oppression. I must oppress somebody else other than that is who thinks differently than me, looks different than me. That is freedom to us.
Yeah.
That's what we know of. That's what we have seen. That's what we believe an imperialist country should be. Those who go go into somebody else's country and control their way of living, control their way of life, make them assimilate.
Right.
That's the way, that's the American way. I hate to say it, but that is the truth. This is what people feel a country, that what makes a country strong is invading.
Right.
And
well, I mean, but unfortunately I agree. Unfortunately, the way of man has been built on war and conflict. Even if you go back into the Neanderthal, opportunity, they were still built on war and conflict.
Basically.
And so that mindset has been ingrained in humans in general forever. That's why you got the tribalism and all those type of things that are going on, and because one tribe has to be represented better than the other, conquesting and that, and then if that tribe has a little bit more diamond, a little bit more gold, a little bit more cattle, whatever, that makes them stronger than the other. We get it, but I would have thought that at this point in life that we have risen above the Neanderthal overtaking type of mentality that is. But war and conflict is basically the thrive of typically the male dominancy. Okay, I mean, really, it is at the end of the day. But anyway, we're going to move on. So we're going to do a little shift. We're going to get into the people of our color narrative. But this was a conference that was out a little bit of time ago where this gentleman had asked a question, which we ask all the time in the Black community. Why is it that there is this separatism between me being Black, but me being a gay male, and why can we not have an honest conversation about that without fingers being pointed? But let's listen to how he kind of brings everything back into.
And love all of y'all, by the way. But my question is, within the Black community, not to say it's not happening with any other race, but why is there this great divide between the LGBTQ plus community and straight community? Because the same people that neglect and abandon their children and treat others less than due to their sexual orientation are the same people that turn around and ask for equal rights and opportunities.
That's an essay question. We got something? That's an essay question. Alright, man, fuck. This niggas, Black people.
I came up with this question because I was in a barbershop and I was listening to different conversations that were going on. I don't judge, period, no matter where your background is from. But I just felt like we're fighting against each other for no reason when we need to start learning how to understand one another.
Black folk. What I'm finna say probably gonna hurt a little bit. And maybe it should. The great bulk of our moral compass is based in white supremacy. I understand that may not be something that most of us are willing to accept in this moment, because that's probably not what we came here to talk about. You saw the videos and flyers and shit. And I know off top, you may not feel a hate towards your people, and you may think that means that you don't believe in white supremacist ideology. But the same thing that puts a man over top a woman in this country, the same thing that makes queer less than straight in this country, the same thing that makes Black less than white in this country, it all comes from the same set of ideology. And if your fight for equality for Black people begins to break down at the meeting of certain intersections, whether that's Black and poor, Black and queer, Black and unemployed, then you have to understand what's actually at the center of your pursuit. And that's white supremacist ideology.
I'm gonna say what he said. In my opinion, I think that's a bunch of bullshit. To be honest, really, at the end of the day, because you cannot channel what is happening in a representation of another community when you have the opportunity to speak to life in your community. What that young man asked, he didn't answer the question, number one. He danced, in my opinion, he danced around the whole idea and tried to bring it in to make it in a white narrative, a white supremacist narrative. Okay, we have allowed, if that is your thought pattern, you allow that to become a part of the community. You allow not to have the transparency with one another, and you have accepted that as the narrative. We have had generations of people that have had the opportunity to continuously build within the community about loving one another, supporting one another, doing the things that we should be within the right, and not allowing the infiltration of the ideas of someone else. Okay, we can go back to where our church community. We did not have to accept that the fact that Jesus was white. I'm just using that as an example. We had to accept that, but we allowed him to be taught. We accepted it going in the narrative of that. So for him to get up and say that what was going on or that particular perspective of that question, in my opinion, is a bunch of bullshit. Because he's not actually dealing with the problem is that you don't like or they don't like the idea of somebody being gay. Just say that. Okay, let's say that that's what it is, and then let's deal with it from there. But you want to dance around to make the few gay people in the audience feel good about what you're saying, or to paint it like white nationalists has formed your opinion about how you feel somebody. That ain't got nothing to do with that. You got people in your own house that you don't care about them, but that was a white person's responsibility. Please give me a damn break. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
They do say that the one thing that we don't take into our community is, the one thing that we don't grab hold of is accountability, and that's the situation. But I mean, it had some merit there and some truth in what he was saying. But I feel like at the end of the day, like you said, there have been many generations that have come along. We, as far back as the Harlem Renaissance, as far back as, we have had the civil rights movement. We have had intersectionality of people from the gay, straight to from within our community to come together and make a change. But then there have been situations where, I hate to say it, the cornerstone had infiltrated that. And you have had people who have felt like, in order for us to get ahead in this community, y'all, we got to put things to the side and focus on the one thing that we want, and that is freedom or whatever. But the saddest thing about that situation is that certain people were written out of the narrative. Nobody knows anything about Bayard Rustin. Nobody knows
James Baldwin. I mean, not to cut you off, but even in the fact that if a portion of the Black community would have listened to the message of James Baldwin, he was very pro-Black, at the end of the day, but because he did not receive that pro-Blackness, so he had to go across borders to be recognized in his Blackness. Because
Zora Hurston,
Zora.
I mean, there have been people,
exactly.
Langston Hughes, and all of these people who have come through, but had to put their sexuality to the side to focus on what was going to move our community into a better situation. But it is sad that those narratives, because of the sexuality talk, has been written out of our own history.
Like that.
And that
can you remember to say that again? That's very powerful.
The sexuality narrative.
Yeah, it's very powerful what you just said. Go ahead.
Yeah, the sexuality narrative. The fact that we don't want to hear about the stories of these gay people who had helped us get ahead. But it's a sad thing to see. But it also it helps those who would love to split our communities apart, divide families, divide.
We're allowing the families to be divided, and why?
Well, let's hear what Charles got to say.
We're allowing these things. Why is it so god dang on important to you as an individual who a woman, man, whatever sleeps with? Why is it so goddamn important? Excuse me, friend. Because you are allowing communities to fall, okay, because of your idea of what someone should be doing privately. I don't get it. I honestly don't get it at the end of the day. Charles, go ahead.
Gee, thanks.
Put the load on you. All right, go ahead.
Yeah. Don't worry, I can hold it. I'm one of those non-judgmental people too. And I allow everybody their own space. I feel like, just me personally, I feel like that is the foundation of this country, to have the freedom to choose and the freedom to live your life the way you want to live it without bothering anyone else or interference with the way your happiness is. As long as you're within a certain means, everything's okay. But too many people are caught up in, men being in women's sports. 2 men try to get in women's sports. You know how you break that? Don't bring them in. That's all.
Yeah. Simple.
That's all. Just as simple. Just don't bring them in. You ain't got to have no laws and all this stuff. You just can't come here. That's all. And then people are tripping over stuff. And I get it. The best indicator of our economy is the grocery store. Man, when you keep watching how eggs keep going up and going up and going, you go, damn, are them chickens on steroids or something? Because they costing a lot.
The saddest thing about it,
the
saddest thing about this situation is that somebody has to put the narrative of division out there. It makes people a lot of money to keep dividing and conquering societies, communities, and cultures. You have to keep people away from each other, because what happens is when you do that, then there is a us against them, meaning in the ones who seem to be controlling the narratives to the ones who are supposed to be just sitting back and letting those who control the narratives control them.
Right.
You can't have us all looped in together and bring in one community. There has to be a situation where people are throwing money. You see it on social media, these rage baits, these people who are always coming in talking about one's hair, one's weight, one's religion, one's sexuality, one's gender, one's race. It always has to be a scenario of divide and conquer, because somebody's making money from this.
Absolutely.
And I hate to say it, but the church also has been a factor in this situation, as well as politics. Because why do you keep wanting this narrative of who is right and who is wrong, and and to who should somebody be in love with, or who should have a family or have children, you should not be worried about stuff of this nature when you have people who are suffering to find food, to pay rent, to afford gas, to afford the basic necessities. If you are poor, wondering and worrying about who I'm sleeping with, and you can't even afford your light bill, then I hate to say it, something is wrong with you. And you and whoever you are listening to are the common denominator to why we are all suffering in this country. Because I had to sit there and tell one of the lady that the store that I service, I said, if you're so worried about who the Islamic extremists, but we have Christian extremists in this country, if you're so worried about Islam controlling the world, then let me ask you this. You are working this job every freaking night. Can you even afford everything that's going on in your life? No. Then why are you worried about Islamic extremists? You need to be worried about the politicians who are making your life a living hell right now.
Come on here. Come on here, Charles. Give me that high five, Charles. Right
you need to worry about those people and start worrying about who and what is serving who's and what God.
Yes, indeed.
Because you can't even afford your rent. You working in this service station smelling like dried up whatever, and you can't even afford the things that you need because you're worried about who's an extremist and who is and what is American and what is not American, and you're broke.
Well, okay. That's the gospel for this evening. That's it right there. That is you're broke, okay?
And we're all broke because you are listening to this nonsense. Let's keep this ball game going.
That is the gospel for this evening, right now, right then and there. It is truly that. All right, we're gonna move on. We can cut it at that point. That was a good ending point right there. All right, so we're gonna take it to the point of celebrating some of the triumphs that we are seeing in the community. You know, at this point, this young lady brought out what the different mayors and things that the governors are doing, you know, in their different cities, and seeing how crime has fallen because they have taken control of that, taking control of the narrative. Which this last video, if you're taking control of the narrative to educate the people, you won't have to have a young man standing up in the middle of them asking this kind of question why we all can't get along. All right, but here we go.
Chicago and Baltimore just posted numbers that should be front page news. They're not. And let's talk about why. In Chicago, Mayor Brandon Johnson just wrapped 3 years where homicides hit their lowest point in 60 years. Robberies down 36%. Carjackings cut in half. Under Police Superintendent Larry Snelling, the homicide clearance rate hit 77%, the highest in over a decade. Johnson doubled mental health crisis responders and expanded youth summer employment by 47%. In Baltimore, Mayor Brandon Scott, who grew up getting handcuffed by police as a kid for what he calls breathing while black, delivered the largest year-over-year homicide drop ever recorded there. 133 homicides in 2025, the fewest in nearly 50 years. 3 straight years of double-digit declines. His group, Violence Reduction Strategy, built with State's Attorney Ivan Bates and Commissioner Richard Worley, offers people a direct choice: job training and mentorship, or real accountability. 2 majority Black cities, Black mayors, Black police commanders, historic turnarounds. So why haven't you heard this the way you'd hear about one carjacking? Research backs this up. Gallup calls it the local positivity bias. National media highlights are the rare and violent while burying the trend. Studies show Black suspects get coverage far out of proportion to actual arrests, and that heavy news consumption alone increases negative associations with Black people, regardless of what viewers already believe. That's not accidental storytelling. Bad news about Black cities has been profitable for decades. Good news about Black leadership fixing the problem doesn't fit that narrative. Brandon Johnson, Brandon Scott, Larry Snelling, Ivan Bates, Richard Worley, say their names. They're doing the work.
And I add, Mondami of New York is doing the damn thing too. And he is really causing havoc within a lot of both of the parties, but especially the Democratic Party, because it's letting everybody know what you say couldn't be done.
Right.
It's now being done.
Right.
And people are seeing it for what it is, and the people in New York are enjoying the new socialist city of the United States of America. And I'm telling people all the time, y'all so busy worrying about the wrong thing. And you got people who are seeing what is going on, seeing us being overtaxed, overworked. We're not being compensated. People getting pushed out, laid off. Yeah. Did y'all see Tyson Meats? In both, and in Utah and in somewhere in Illinois, they got pushed out of their jobs because, it's so much going on in the economy, but there are people who are doing the damn thing. But you know what? I don't know what's going to wake people up to understand that when you are voting for who you are voting for, pray and hope and do research. Do research of knowing who these people are working for. Are they going to work for the better of your benefit? Right. But just do research. And I'm just saying, I'm bowing down to the people that she named, because Baltimore has been on the rise and doing better. And Maryland, Governor Westmore, he's been doing the damn thing as well.
Tremendous. So it's out here that the job can be done, and initially when you have the proper support behind you. But I would just like to say that as a community, that we need to get behind this, and then I think we look for this massive movement, and then we get on board with the whole opportunity. One of my dear friends, we were having a conversation the other day, and we were elaborating on the fact of what makes a mega church. Okay, is it a mega idea? Is it a mega this? Does it makes you feel good and this whatever? So what makes a mega better than a minor? What's the difference in a pastor on the corner, and then across the street you got this church with 25,000 people, and he got 1,500 people? What makes it different? Where is the love? Where is it? It is all about showmanship. Yeah. Okay. And then how you feel comfortable about being entertained when you go to that particular place. So you tell a person, it's just like going to a Beyonce concert. At the end of the day, because you're gonna get some booty shaking, some titty shaking, something going on at Beyonce's concert. You have Blue Ivy swinging arms, and everything else going out there at a Beyonce. And guess what? You'll pay $500, $600, $700, $1,000 to go see her. Okay, that's a mega church. I'm gonna leave it at that.
Well, concert, he was making his fans pay $36.
$36. I looked at the funny you mentioned. I looked at the tickets for when I went to the victory tour. We were in the victory tour. Okay, tickets were $39.50. Sold it out 6 nights in a row. $39.59. Okay, but anyway, we're gonna move on.
No, go on, Charles. Charles.
Charles.
Hey, I ain't got nothing to add to that.
It's very telling that tickets. I mean, you know, the tickets are very high. But going back to what we were saying, you know, these mayors are doing the damn thing. But then you have in Chicago these organizations that Trump has put in. I call them black operatives, especially in Chicago. What is that? Make Chicago red. See, when you have this man who is cutting down on homicides and all this stuff, you have always going to have people who are not going to be satisfied until their agenda is being pushed.
Right.
And the agenda that these fools want is the immigrants out.
Right.
But the saddest thing about that is that within the black community in Chicago, when are they going to push the narrative of empowerment and improvement in the education system as well in the financial situation? The saddest thing about it is it's not the immigrants that are doing it. We only doing this to ourselves because of the fact that we are not rooted in the foundation of making things better for ourselves. Now, I mean, even in California, we live in LA and you know, the narrative out here is that most people who live out here are Hispanic and everything is Hispanic owned. Right. But the saddest thing is that there are black communities out here, but we do not stick together when it boils down to making things better for each other. But I've seen it in Atlanta. I'm sorry, we lived in Atlanta for how long? And I'm not trying to throw off on Atlanta, but Atlanta could be better than what it is. It could be better, but hey, to each his own. Charles, can you debate me on that one? Do you think Atlanta should be better than what it is?
It can. It has the potential. It's just that what people don't see is that the government and everything still ran by conservatives. Yeah. The House and all that stuff, it's still got. Hey, just because you got a bunch of black folks, they don't have that kind of power. That thing is the state house is full of all them road rednecks. Man, Killer Mike, I used to respect that cat.
You know, it is amazing, and I love when we have this kind of discussions on the show because, you know, some people will say that you're pointing fingers at your community and whatever the case is. Well, yeah, we are. You know, and we got to do better. You know, it's just not. It's not at the point of where we can. We've got to do better if we want to see the initial change to have our place in this rank what we call humanity. Got to. You know, and back to the last video that we were that before the last one, but to the young man's point, and I agree, that's what goes on in barbershops. You don't have male empowerment. You know, at the end of the day, now there are a couple of things I hear now, which I'm applauding that as well. There are a couple of guys that are one football player. He's got this dads and garage, dads and bods, whatever he's calling it right now in his community. There are groups. Smaller groups that are trying to build better bonding for men and really getting past all of this Neanderthal mentality. So I'm hoping that, you know, in this next season of Drew Ground Drew, that we find a way to infiltrate that a little bit more and bring a lot of transparency to what we need to do, you know, in that male situation. But anyway, we're going to move on just a little bit. We're not going to play this much of the video because we got to wrap it up. But this was a not young lady. Well, she's really good out there, and she coming from a white woman's perspective and just adding to what Black Americans are experiencing, it is uplifting to see someone in that caliber identifying it. So maybe those that are not paying attention will start paying attention because she said, you know, at the end of the day. But anyway, we're not going to play long over a video, but just a little bit of it.
Black Americans are being hunted and murdered in Mississippi. I'm going to say that again because it's horrifying, and the mainstream media is too busy allowing the Trump administration to dominate the news cycle, lying about the economy, downplaying the war, ignoring the health outbreaks and the upcoming healthcare cuts to take even a moment to talk about the Black people being targeted for death in the state of Mississippi. And before you say I'm being hyperbolic about this, if we had this many unexplainable deaths of white children happening in one state, you know the media would be losing their collective minds. One beautiful white girl was killed by an undocumented immigrant, and the Republican Party ran their entire election and then wrote an aggressive immigration bill in her name. But we are watching black person after black person after black person lose their lives under unexplained circumstances, many of them being found strung up in trees, and no foul play is being called by the police or the medical examiner or any investigative reporters. I need you to stay with me on this because I understand this is very uncomfortable, but it is essential that we understand what is really happening, especially if you look like me or you live in the South or you have a family member or you yourself are in law enforcement. When someone black ends up hung for no discernible reason in questionable circumstances with no indication the victim was suicidal, that's what's called lynching. But when this happens in a state that refused to pass a standalone anti-lynching bill in 2026, the state that didn't ratify the 13th Amendment formally abolishing slavery until 1995, 130 years after it was passed by Congress, and didn't even make it official until 2013 because of a clerical error, when this kind of thing happens in the state that recorded more lynchings than any U.S. state between 1882 and 1968, with at least 581 documented racial terror killings, the only state that banned Sesame Street because they didn't like white and black children being shown playing together, then you start to see a pattern and a major problem. The adults in charge of Mississippi seem determined to keep their generations of hate and division going strong, and people are dying because of it. We have endless media discussion.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh,
yeah, no. I mean, she goes on further, and I'm gonna put that clip up on my page, and then maybe we'll pick it up again next week to, get in further. But I think it's very powerful. And she broke down the narrative. I mean, she really, really did the research and broke down the narrative. That, my opinion, that video of hers should be on every social media platform, everyone, and if my black brothers and sisters are not listening to what she is saying, especially those that live in those kind of areas there, y'all better wake the fuck up. I mean, at the end of the day, and for her to take the responsibility on to be able to do that, and my white brothers and sisters, okay, y'all even more so need to be paying attention to what she is saying in that. And like the ones that wanted to disown me or befriend me in Georgia. Okay, because I was telling you the truth about the person you put in the White House. You didn't like being called on the carpet about the truth behind the truth. Girl, you need to listen to her too. I ain't gonna say your name, but you didn't push me to that point. But anyway, so I did want to bring a little bit of that up to to the point today. We'll play more of it next week. Unfortunately, we can't where the videos are, so you can't stop and talk about them and do a reaction to them. But yeah, it'll be up on my page. You guys can take a look at it. And Donald Charles, if you want to share it as well, be on that page. But it was very, 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 very good about what she said, and she really broke it down, especially what's going on in Mississippi. Why isn't that the only state that you find people hanging from the trees?
This is the most corrupt state.
Well, there you go. Okay. But guess what? People don't read. They don't pay attention. They don't listen because guess what? It ain't about gay folk. It ain't about this. It ain't about what the Bible said. You know what I'm saying? We pay attention to every damn other thing else but what we're supposed to that will help infiltrate and give a better place and position of love than what we're experiencing right now. In time for that. But anyway, so we're going to move on just for a little motivation, and then we're going to wrap it because we are like over time. All right. Do you guys have anything you want to add to that? I'm sorry. I kept running my mouth.
Well, it's on the rise. And who's giving the lead way for all of this?
Right.
I mean, it stinks at the top. And if it stinks at the top, it stinks at the bottom. I mean,
Stinks all over.
It stinks all over.
Yeah.
So, at the end of the day, I hope people, especially down south and out here too, are woke to what's going on. Instead of, like I said, about the lady worrying about Islamic extremists, these are right-wing extremists, hate groups who are now being emboldened by this new regime that we're having to live up under. And yeah, they are doing what they're doing, and the government is covering it up. So hey, like I say, you don't like this.
You may not be hung on the street, but these others that are out there in the same situation. And then and I'll leave it at this. It's just like, why did it take 60 plus years to get an anti-lynching bill passed in America? Why? Okay. Why? All right. Well, let's just leave it at that. Why did it take that long to be able to do that? Charles, do you have anything you want to add to that, or are you okay?
No, I'm good.
Okay. All right. So we're going to motivate out, and then we will.
See, a lot of people don't realize that we were already abundant, but we block abundance. Imagine this. You were set up. You were created already ready to go. But the issue is, here's the issue. You block it. We block it subconsciously. See, we do it when we're not aware that we do it. So our nervous system's in survival. Our nervous system's living in fear. Our nervous system lives from scarcity. Our nervous system lives from low self-worth, or we outsource our self-esteem or our acceptance. Our self-worth is not intrinsic anymore. So now here's what ends up happening. Our nervous system's like, am I enough? Am I good enough? And all we're doing is blocking all of the things that could be coming to us. This is why that inner work, why it matters so much. Do the work on the inside, and it has to show itself on the outside. Do the work on the inside, and this is how you produce the income.
I think that's a very valid point about how you said like doing the work on the inside, and that can be kind of tied back to every one of the the videos that we listened to tonight. I'm going to go back to the one where the young gentleman had proposed a question. Can you imagine if whoever was the leader that moment, when he said, you know what, Black people, if we would start doing the work on the inside, this young man would never have to pose this particular question in this setting. We would come together and we would realize that, we are our own biggest problem, and it's that's by how we see ourselves and how we see one another, but we can't see each other any better because we don't see ourselves as an individual any better. And what comes out of us is the same thing that keeps filtering through us. This is why we have the opportunity to find opportunities to assemble in these places on Sunday mornings, because it validates those things about us. We don't realize that it's not validated by God; it's validated by the words that come across that pulpit. So you don't find yourself responsible for not extending the love that you're expecting to get back, because you're not extending it. So it's not coming out of you, so you're not going to get it back. That's why you can point your finger. You can point your finger at a gay person. You can point your finger at the person or judging the person that lives under a bridge, or not feeding the homeless, or not making sure that you're elderly or taking care of what is all scripturally led, in terms of. So I think, we say it all the time, accountability starts with you. And if you're not willing to make the adjustment to become an accountable source, then these conversations, misknowns, bad feelings are always going to fester, because nobody's taking responsibility of addressing the issue. But the issue is not who I'm pointing my finger at. The issue is within me. All right? All right. So thank you guys so much for tuning into the Truth Beyond Truth tonight. I think it was a very powerful and informative night, which we really tried to hopefully have, on a regular basis. I did get a little word. I don't know if I'm putting him on the spot, but our former co-host, well, not former, but he's just been on hiatus, but will probably be joining us before either one of either next week's show or the following show. Darnell will be back joining us probably between the next two shows before we go on hiatus. Now, just remind you, the end of the month is our last two shows. I believe that my cousin, our family, great friend of the show, will be on talking about her book, as well. And then we will be off for the month of September, and we'll be back, I think, what did Charles say? Second Tuesday in October, we will be returning, but with a whole new format. But we'll give you, more hints of that. You see the build up coming in for that, coming along as we get closer to that time frame. All right. But other than that, thank you so much for tuning in to Truth Beyond Truth tonight. Charles, you got anything you want to add before we leave?
I'm good.
Okay, baby.
I think I'm good too.
Right.
Oh, I got something for you.
Yes.
Did you all see where the guy who hit $1.4 billion suing his girlfriend because she told everybody he hit the lottery?
No, I cannot. See, that's what we just talking about. That's what we just talked about. All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning into the Truth Behind Truth Night. We will see you right back here on next Tuesday night. Thank you again. We love you all. Thank you much. Have a good night. Bye.
Why is it not in there?